Even though I was very aware of what was happening with the coronavirus in other parts of the world, the gravity of it did not really hit me until March 15th, 2020, when three friends texted that Decorah schools were closing for the next 4 weeks. I thought about when I was a full-time teacher. This was different from an unexpected snow day. This was 4 weeks. And then I reflected upon my husband and myself as parents. Our daughter was expecting her second baby in early May, and of course we had planned to be as involved as we possibly could. Less than 2 days later, Iowa's governor issued the following directive. Social distancing has been advised for all persons. All gatherings and events of more than 10 people are hereby prohibited at all locations and venues. How would these restrictions impact my family? On March 25th, I went to University of Iowa Hospital and Clinics with my daughter. Iowa City was a hot spot where the coronavirus began in Iowa. My daughter's doctors wanted her baby to be delivered there. He was very small for his gestational age. To be better prepared for his birth, they encouraged an amniocentesis that day. On March 27th, in our presence, she learned the results. Trisomy 18, also known as Edwards syndrome. Only 10% of these babies survive through birth, and of that 10%, only another 10% survive their first year. On that same day, the Iowa Department of Health said, "If you stay home now, we can have the summer together." Little did we know that we would indeed have the summer together, but not in a way we had envisioned. So we decided to live our summer in compliance with CDC and Department of Public Health guidelines when necessary, and in defiance when our immediate family and lifelong friends needed us. Then on April 16th, the Department of Health said, there is to be absolutely no gatherings for social, community, recreational, and leisure purposes, except those immediate family members who live in your home all the time. And on April 17th, spiritual and religious gatherings may be held only if there are 10 or fewer people, and all people stay at least 6 feet away from each other. Gatherings of any size with people outside of the same household are prohibited. Well, on May 7th, our grandson Mason was born at University of Iowa Hospitals and lived there in the neonatal ICUs, levels 4, 3, and 2, until June 23rd. The days that followed were full of ups and downs. Most days his parents could not even go in together to see their frail little son. We didn't get to meet him in person ourselves until he was already a month old, the day of his baptism at Stead Children's Hospital. The nurse encouraged me to hold him, in case it might be the only time I could. Thankfully, days later he was moved to a bigger room in a hospice setting, and grandparents got to visit again, but only for very limited times. How happy we were when Mason was transferred to Mercy One in Waterloo. There we got to hold him as long as we wanted. Our daughter loved that he was closer to home. The doctors and nurses were much more encouraging, and Mason had the chance to be with his sister Amelia every day. And still, the Department of Health said on July 1st, be aware that even a family gathering can put you at risk, no matter the number of persons attending. Help us by doing your part. And on July 13th, all residents should stay home as much as possible. Continue to practice the 6 feet social distancing with members outside of your household. By mid-July, Mason had worked himself off the CPAP so he could go home to live with his family. Lots of arrangements were necessary: oxygen, a feeding monitor, and home health. Masked strangers came into their home. All other visitors were discouraged. Not what every family does when they bring a new baby home, but what we did to protect his fragile heart and lungs. When Mason's dad went back to work, I spent those long days with Mason, Mommy, and Amelia. I held him whenever I could. He usually fell asleep, but there were a couple of times that he struggled to breathe. I held him upright like I had seen my daughter do, and he soon settled down again. I always knew that we could do it together. On September 10th, Mason and his parents went to Children's Hospital in Omaha for an evaluation of what could possibly be done, if anything, for the defect in his heart. None of us knew how sky-high his heart and lung pressures were, and that it was a miracle that he had lived as long as he had. The second day there, he was back on a ventilator, just like he had been the first few weeks of his life. Then on September 24th, he gave up the good fight, and his heart took a final rest. No family should have to experience what we did, especially during a pandemic like this. It brought us even closer to friends whom we have always known, who trust each other. Trust was absolutely imperative, and even a little mischievous when we met in person and gave each other much-needed hugs. On January 31st, 2021, 60 Minutes featured an interview with a young woman whose fiancé had died with COVID-19 just months before they were to be married. Even though my family did not experience loss directly due to this virus, we can definitely relate to the loss of what could have been. The host of the program concluded by saying, all over the country, people are talking about, isn't it going to be great when this is over? And it occurs to me, speaking to you, that for a lot of people in this country, it will never be over. The young woman responded, never be. What is normal? Normal is not a thing for a lot of us anymore.